Greetings and welcome to this episode of Let's Create Something with Trapcode TAO. And in this one, we're gonna look at how to create grid-based revealers like this one with the golden hexa pieces, and they are somehow a bit rounded and they shine. So we're gonna look at how to set this up. Revealers are pretty often something that motion designers we use to when a video is playing some content and we want to switch to another one with something like a transition. So let's see how we can make that with Trapcode TAO. So let's create a new composition. Control N, we'll make it square 1080 by 1080. Make a new solid, call it TAO, and let's apply our TAO effect on that. So right off, first thing we're gonna do is we could do this with a line auto-generated path, but let's do it with light, because if we later decide that we need more control, then we'll have it already placed. We could also do it with a mask, but let's go and create a spotlight. Let's call this TAO, and let's make it white, and make sure that the radius and fall off are 100%. Click OK. We can, that's not necessary, but if we can create a couple of nulls and center it out. So 540, 540, and 0. We're going to attach that to that. This, I'm going to attach that to that. I'm going to attach that to that, and that to that. I don't think that it's going to be quite necessary. We could keep it like, let's keep it really simple in this one. We're just going to use one basic light object to do this. So basically we're going to create a grid. We're going to use two lights to have them go in both directions, and we're going to use the repeater to fill off the screen. So let's create our first trajectory. So let's create it 300 frames, and let's move this from the center to the right side of the screen to start with. And what kind of number can we put there? It can kind of help if we start to think about multiples of this number, because that's half our comp size. So let's multiply this number by 3, let's say. So we're gonna move it all the way to this point from the center, and let's see what that that won't make anything quite nice yet, because let's hit Control Alt O and make sure its auto orientation is set to off, and then we'll have some kind of a straight path there, because it's an extrusion by default. TAO, if we go in the segment section, it extrudes n-gon, but let's repeat n-gons instead. At first we're not gonna notice lots of difference. Let's get in the rendering. Just while we do that, while we set this up, let's set the draw to wireframe. So we're gonna really look at the geometry we're working with in the first place. Do we need a chamfer? Let's turn off the chamfer. Let's tessellate as quad. So we're gonna get rid of the superficial lines here. It's gonna help us see what's going on. And let's see, I'm gonna reduce the amount of segments until there we can see that we have separated pieces there. Let's make them 6 sides, so that's gonna make ourselves nice little hexagons, but they're all gonna be facing the wrong way. We wanna look at them face up, so let's rotate them. Let's use our light here. We can rotate them 90 degrees. And let's see, now we can decide how many rows we want and all of that. Let's make them a little bit smaller, so let's half their size, and let's increase the amount of segments until we get some kind of a filled space with only small gaps in between. And we just wanted to go from this side to this side of the screen, right? So that's what we have by default. Now let's duplicate this light, and let's see here we have our keyframes here. It's doing the exact same thing. Instead of doing that, let's go to minus. So once we refresh, then it has to be the same amount, so not minus, but here. So I want to know what 1620 minus 540, it's 1080. So here let's minus 1080. This one is 540, and this one is 540 minus 1080. All right. So we have it. It's starting from the center there. So now let's offset that on Y, and let's bring it to the top there, and let's try to align that so it's like just offset there, and we're gonna align this with that. So let's try to bring it approximately, and make sure that you have both keyframes selected, so we don't have a diagonal path there. And that's what we're gonna start with. So I think we can get rid of the wireframe look, and that's our nice little hexagon shapes. Cool. Now let's see if we can drop this down and maybe a little. And it doesn't need to be like the perfect spot. It just needs to look to see if it seems right, then it's right. All right, let's repeat that, and maybe we want to repeat that. This is gonna be our base thing, so we can think about centering it up. So there's is, if I activate this is the center of our screen. It seems to be a little offset now, but we want to be lining at the middle. It is right about this point here where it meets up. So let's select all the keyframes here, and let's align that in this particular way. So we have half of this diagonal line lining up with the center approximately. It doesn't need to be pixel perfect, but if it seems right, then I think we're in business. So that's what we're starting with. Let's activate some animations in that. So right now they are just being generated. We don't have anything. Let's use the offset. And usually we do something that's looping, but this time we want to use something that reveals in and then that reveals out. So what I use to do that is I start with a keyframe at first at minus 100, and let's open this up and let's make a 90 frame animation. So at the frame 90, let's go here and make it positive 100. We can right away hit page up to get one frame back, and close our work area at frame 89. So we can make little markers here. I'm hitting shift and the numbers, so I'll have something to go at the beginning and at the end. I don't know what I'm doing this, because usually this is what I do to compare loop points, but it's not gonna loop. It's gonna be right now nothing is happening. Let's check off the position and let's look at what we get. So this is some nice motion, but it doesn't, like on the first frame it's oriented toward this, and it kind of moves and it kind of clips in. That's not really what we want. Let's turn off the size, so this doesn't change anything. Let's turn everything off for the moment, and well, we can leave the size, and let's add some keyframes in there. So we can start with this part there, and let's hit twice quickly on A. So we'll reveal the options, and the radius here, let's make some keyframes. So we just want to have it fade in and fade off. So let's make a first one here, and let's get like something like 10 frames later. Make another one. We can go back here and set this one at 0, and then we can grab those. So I'm hitting Control C and get right there, bring them right at keyframe number 3 there, and I'm gonna right click there, keyframe assistant, time reverse. So we got the exact opposite here. It's gonna go from 100 to 0. Now this doesn't affect anything as long as we don't activate. We can close this down, we don't need it. Right in the path from TAO lights here, the size from radius. So right there we can see something is going on. Alright, so right here it's kind of quick, so it's going from there to there, and then it's continuing off the screen. If we were to zoom out, we would see the rest of that. So that's more that like the kind of thing we do want, I think, but it doesn't seem like we needed to be. If we look at our offset there, we're at -13 and we got two squares on. So we can start here instead of -100. Let's drag this until we see the beginning of our animation. So right there, -30, and let's get here, and let's do the same thing just until it leaves the right side of the screen. So we might come back to this and change that later on, but for the moment we're gonna start with that. So we have something that at the first frame, if we go to the second frame, it's already animating. So right there we have something. Each segment will pop in and pop out sequentially, so that's quite interesting. We have some controls here. If we want these things to the duration of the when they pop in to last longer, we can just drag these, and let's hit Control Alt front slash to refresh. So now they'll kind of animate. It's gonna last longer. So depending on exactly what you're aiming to get as a result, sometimes it's just a matter of trying out a few ones or exporting a couple of variations and deciding what you like. It can be totally subjective, but let's also keep in mind that we can ease those if we want. For example, we want them to come in real fast and slow down. Let's do that by setting the second keyframe here to easy ease in, and let's click here to get in the graph editor, and now are we on the we're on the speed graph. So let's get on the value graph, and if it's kind of messy right now because we see both, we can turn off the reference graph here. So now what we're dealing with is only this is the size, so it goes from 0 and it follows these curves up to 100. We can maybe pick up this and click here so we can have a handle here, and let's grab it, and we want it to start really fast. So let's grab this point here and bring it there, and we want it to oh no, that's not the speed. That so if we were messing with the speed, we'd do that, but now it's the position. So we want it to start very fast, and then it's gonna fade off. So let's look at our speed graph. So it's starting really fast and then it slowed down. Let's look at what we get. Now we won't, perhaps it's not gonna be updated as long as we don't force it out of the cache. So let's do that. And now okay, so this is interesting. It's kind of the opposite way around. If we look at that, we're starting here to play around with this keyframe here, but as we can see here, the motion is affecting the second part of this. So what can we do? Let's grab both of these and let's offset that. And we're not looking at this one for the moment, so maybe we might as well go here and quickly just set the radius to 0 so it's not in the way. And here, let's make sure that this first one is at 0 so there are nothing going on. And here, so now if we do that, it's gonna be more logical in our brains to work like this, because this is the start and this is the end. So I want to point out that now if we wanted to go the opposite direction, let's get to our TAO path here and can get both keyframes there, keyframe assistant time reverse. So that'll simply revert their order here, and now we might have to change those numbers back here. So it's gonna start there at 100 as it seemed, and here it's gonna end at 23. So that's what we're. So don't hesitate to scramble things around if it doesn't work your way, and rearrange your structure so you can work exactly as you want to. Then it's gonna be easier. You won't be always wondering what's going on exactly. So now I like this. Let's re-enable the other side and let's apply that. So I'm gonna go to the radius, set it back to 100, and here simply what I have to do is look at my keyframes here for the radius, and I've just timed this like with the 90 frame, but keep in mind that this is all the way through this, so we have all this way around to drag this. Yeah. So depending on what we do, now I'm gonna bring this all the way up to there. So we're gonna be that's gonna give us some delay in between, and now we'll need to pull these in further. So let's look at that. There. It's revealing and then it's stopping. So always remember that we can bring this if we want it to start like sooner and all. So that's a lot of control that we have here. And let's also ease it on the go. So ease out, and let's look at that. Let's make it start like really slowly, and it's gonna close down really fast. So let's compare that with the value. It's at 100, and it's gonna keep close to 100 there, and then it's gonna drop really fast to 0, and it's gonna induce more life than if it's a linear thing. So let's refresh that. Let's look at it. So when they go out, and let's stretch this out. Let's refresh. So then we have more of them that are into motion at the same time, depending on where we stretch this one. So let's keep it like that, and I like how we used to have it when we didn't have that much of a delay. So as soon as it starts there, let's bring this in. Let's refresh. So it's not even gonna be as soon as it's complete there, it's gonna start to pop them off. So this, okay, I like that. Let's grab those keyframes and let's bring those over here. So I'm gonna copy them, Control C, and let's select the radius of our second TAO light. Let's hit paste, And let's look at that. So so we're also gonna need to work around the position keyframes of this. So let's invert those exactly like we did on the previous one, and let's refresh. So now it's starting right from the start, and it's going. Let's hit Control Shift H to hide the layer control. So it starts right at the center, and it kind of drags out. So that's our base animation that we're gonna use. Now we can repeat that until we fill all the screen. What we can do first is repeat this side to go this way and this one to go that way, and then we'll repeat that as a patch with the second repeater. So two levels of repeat here. Let's get in the first one, and let's repeat only one for this one and not doubled. So by default, that's what we have because it's offset 100 pixels. So let's make that 0 as well, and let's rotate it on the, so the R1 world rotate, let's rotate that 180 degrees, and let's see if we can offset that. So if we bring this over here, 45 pixels, it's quite centered, but I think there's gonna be some that are on top of others. But in this situation, it's kind of exactly like, maybe not exactly, but it's kind of nice how it pops in like that. So it automatically repeats what we're doing, and it now goes both ways. So that's pretty nice. Let's repeat this patch. If we take this and we repeat it in this and that direction with the second repeater. So let's do that. We're gonna leave the symmetric double on this one, and let's start with 1. So first, it's going the right way. So here, we just need to increase this amount, and everything is lining up exactly as it should. So let's get the number we're satisfied with. So this one is pretty interesting, I think. And now we can increase that amount until it fills up all the way. So that's our nice animation. So we're starting with some content here, and it's gonna pop in from, and then while it's entirely filled up, we change what's going on, and then we reveal the next thing. So really easy here. We don't have much more than these 2 keyframes to control this whole animation. If we wanted to go the other way around, let's simply select both of these and time reverse, and it's gonna start from this side to this side. All right. So now I want you to think about all the possibilities of this. This is one way, that like one combination of how I've set this up, but it can be like other shapes, triangles, maybe squares, anything else. Hexagon shape is nice. It's like a hive. All right. Now let's see what it looks like with chamfers. I wonder. So how did I make them like rounded? Because these there are repeated end guns, and they're all like a super sharp edge. We can bevel them, but the bevel will always be like this chamfer is gonna always be like completely straight. Let's see how I did that. Let's duplicate this. We can keep that and come back to it later on if we need to do so. And let's come over here, and instead of end guns, let's use repeat spheres. So that's what we get by default. Oh yeah, And just prior to start on with that, let's get back in the repeater. And one thing I forgot to illustrate is the offset path. In this situation, it's easy to get variations of this. If we set that to, let's start with 12. So what's going on here? Let's close down the first repeater. So okay, this let's leave it at 0. It's gonna offset the first level of repeat that we want. If we offset on the second level of repeater, let's start with 12. So we're gonna start to get other shapes, but soon as we start to increase that number here in the offset, what we have to keep in mind is that the global offset controls, now it's gonna spill off of the values that we initially got in there, because like the repeated animations now goes further, if we can figure exactly what's going on. So all we need to think about really is just increasing those number here until it get revealed out, and here just to make sure that these are what we want. So this is a nice cool little animation, pretty nice, but let's keep it at 0, or let's try 6, just another type of offset. So let's keep it at 0 for the moment, and let's make them like rounded gold nugget hexagon pieces. So let's get back to here, the repeat n-gons. Let's make them spheres, and let's get down here in the rendering, set the shader to smooth, and now they are like spheres, and the amount of size, let's set that to 4. So we get back to some kind of hexagon shapes, but that are like rounded, but now they're rotated. So let's get here, we can do that in the light, but since we got 2 lights, we can do it globally here from the in the segment section. We can rotate Z. So here we want to make sure that this is rotated exactly 30 degrees, and we kind of do have a gap, but see how it looks now. It's pretty different, and it gets us a nice specular point here, so that makes it look all shiny. And what we can do right now, let me add a camera there, so Control Alt Shift C, 50 millimeters default. Let's make a dolly. I'm hitting F4 here to reveal the options. I'm making it 3D, linking this to that, and rotating X here. We're gonna look at it from another angle. So if we look at it from there, we can see like we got a bunch of eggs. But if we could flatten those out, they'll look more like honeycombs or some hive stuff. So let's get back in our segment, and here we have some means of scaling them unproportionally. So let's scale them not on the Y but on the Z, and let's make them flat little pieces like that. So look at that, it's like chiclets, and we can rotate back to 0. So that's, now we get even more interesting kind of spec thing there going on. So it's pretty cool, and we might want to reduce or simply like want to change the amount of gap we've got in between, instead of messing around with their position and the amount of segments. If we got everything in place, let's just think about like scaling them up or down. So easily we can get some, it's kind of a very interesting pattern there. So let's keep some gaps for the moment, and let's make it gold looking. So we could use some fractal to make small little details, but let's use normal map. And the way we're gonna do this is perhaps not totally legit, but as long as it's not something that a commercial project here, I'm just gonna go look it up on Google. So I'm gonna type down Goldie Hawn gold normal map, and here I'm gonna hit on images, and it's gonna bring me a couple of different, and I think this is the one I use. So this one kind of looks like a wavy, it's called gold veins here, and let's give some credits here. So it comes from this filter forge, and it's kind of seamless. So I don't know if we can really use this, but make sure that if you use this in a commercial project, you get to buy them from this site here that I got it. But for now, since we're just using this as to practice, let's hit right click on view image and open the link in a new tab, and let's get here and then right click here and save that image to wherever we want to save it. I got it here already, but let's bring it in here. So this got it right there. So let's bring it in here, and then we have this little JPEG here. It's 512 by 512, so not that really big. Let's bring that here. Perhaps it's good practice. We should perhaps make it as a composition first, and then get back in here, and we can bring that in, and let's set it as a normal map in the TAO settings. So let's go into textures here, and let's get to normal map and select our what we've just done. So it looks kind of a little bit noisy. What we can right away do is set the super sample to 16, and that's what we'll get. And let's get some SIBL, smart image based lighting, going on. So we're going to use the pre-built, and we're kind of just going to use this sunset field because already we've got some like golden hour sunlight going on here, so it's going to make it nice if we rotate the environment. So let's rotate it until we get like this, the sun spot hitting right there. So already it's kind of looking better, but now it's really messed up gold. We see too much of the texture of the normal map. So let's reduce that, and we just need a little bit of an amount of that just to suggest that it's got some details in it. Like it's not totally entirely flat, like it's not like, or perhaps that's exactly what you would want to make it look like, but let's just add it a little bit so we got a little bit of details going on. And I'm just gonna force it back all the way. Right now it looks kind of a little bit repeated too much. We can do to fix that. Either we can oh, that's interesting. That's not what I meant to do, but let's see. Let's get back to regular here, and where is the repeater? Yeah, let's get back to the repeater, and what we can do, I think, is on the second repeater, or on the first one this time. We've got the offset R1 texture, so let's do that, and that's simply gonna make it so we've got some variations. And let's do the same on the second repeater. So they're not exactly the same. There's still gonna be definitely gonna be a pattern here, but yeah, let's start with that. And we can also like change this here if we want to make this And right now it's being applied as a fan. We're looking at our cap, so we can try to set that to full, and that won't change anything because we're on spheres. Yeah. So since we're on spheres, it should be 2:1 ratio, I think. But yeah, just find kind of the setting that looks best for you, and let's tone it down. Anyways, you're not gonna see it that much, so let's just leave it at 7, something like that. So already we got some metally looking stuff. The material and lighting, what I usually do here is keep this as neutral, so the most neutral gray shade we can get, 128, 128, 128. That's the mid gray, and now we're at 8 bits per channel, so you might not get the same numbers depending on if we're on 16-bit. Now let's get back here. We got different types of numbers, and if we're on 32 float, like it's 0.5, 0.5, 0.5. So let's set that, and we have more control over how it's getting its light. Let's also shade those, so perhaps we can help it. Right now they're totally white, so I've got both selected. Quickly tap on 8, reveal the options, and I'm gonna click on one of the colors here, but since I got both selected, it's gonna change for both. And let's pick up some kind of a dark kind of a golden color, and let's look at our result. So let's make sure both are selected, and let's see if we need more brightness or not. And can also go back to our reflection settings and everything there to tweak this, so we can increase the diffuse strength. So this brightens it up a little bit, and we might want to increase the metal all the way up, but in this case I think that might be something like halfway in between. And already look at that, pretty nice. We've got some gold. One other thing that we can do here is, you gotta be subtle with this, but let's just like put the really low number amplitude here. Let's exaggerate it just at first so we can see what's going on. So right there, that's not what we're aiming for, but we just want like smaller than that. So let's increase the oct scale until it's something more, it's affecting differently each pieces. And let's keep this down, so something like 2, and let's compare with, like, leave it off. I'm gonna take a picture here, and let's put 2 here. So it just like brings in a little bit more details and makes it a little bit more randomized in the end. So maybe we just need to have it on. We can try that. Let's put both of those on at 0, and now they're just going to be offset on the Z. So yeah, I think that might be what we want. See here, all of them is got like some deformation, slight deformation, which influences how the light refracts on them. So it makes it look more organic, like less of a computer generated pattern. And let's try to increase the complexity. So right there, we can lose it on there, and maybe just put really smaller values on there. So already, if I compare that, I like it much better. I like it much better with this. And maybe that means we can also tone down the normal map. So let's bring this down to 5. So that's what we started with. That's what we got now. I like it much better. Now they're all the same color. This if like this now starts to look like some kind of an Roman armor zoom close up, like those would not be all the exact same color. They would be slight variations in them. So if we want to reproduce that, let's get in the colors here, and we're gonna create a bunch of keyframes here, and we're just gonna make different colors, slightly different colors. So let's start that, and we can go to frame 10, and let's come over here, just tweak this a tad down here, and I'm hitting shift page down, so I'm moving to frame 20, and just move that a little bit there, and we don't want to have drastic differences in the tone, in like we don't want some of them to be really dark, or maybe that's what you want, but let's just create slight variations, not too much there, and let's make a bunch of those like small variations in there. And once we've made a couple, right now I'm on frame 50, so it's kind of multiple. Here I can loop this out, so let's hit Alt Control, and let's set loop out type cycle. So now it's not that obvious, isn't it? We can toggle hold keyframe, and let's force refresh that. So now if you look it up, we've got some slight variation, and it's still got some kind of a pattern in it. So this brings it just a little tiny bit amount of detail in there. Might be what we're looking for. And once again, we can like make more drastic changes, or I'm gonna add one more of this. So let's make more changes there, and let's stay in the golden area of colors. So last one on frame 100, and let's look at what we get. So we definitely got some variations in there, and now that I've made a bunch, I can go back to frame 50, and maybe we can bring this in. I'm holding Alt to proportionally scale them, and then we got different kinds of pattern here. And if we want to just add in one color, let's like look at exactly where would that be. So here I just added some nice purple ones there, and let's select them all and hit Control to make them. So I don't know exactly, like now there's not enough segment to pick up all of those, so it might be more sensible if we use that kind of a. I don't see where it's not picking up that color anymore, which is weird. That's not what I meant to do. Let's hold keyframe. So right there, it's picking it up. Let's go to frame 300 there, and I'm gonna bring this up. That's interesting. Right. So just like, I'm never even sure of where my colors are being applied, but there's I'm gonna just remove it, and now we have some kind of a really uneven pattern. Let's work these out, and go to frame 50, and let's bring this, or frame 100 there. think it's just going, this is just going on one of the colors now, but let's get over here on the second light here. It doesn't have any keyframes, so I've just selected them all, and I'm gonna copy, Control C, and paste them right here, and then we can simply rearrange those in a different manner so it doesn't look the same as the other one. And we can also like add in more variations by once again making some slight changes here, very in a really randomized fashion here. So let me refresh, and we got some more interesting colors here in the pattern. Let's close this down here, see what we get. So that's pretty nice. Let's look at the frame where we've got them all in place and save that. So that's yeah, it's pretty cool. We've made them look a little bit better now, and let's add in one more step of animation in there. So right now they're only scaling in. Let's have them rotate at the same time they're doing that. So maybe that's one thing that would be interesting. So let's get to our light objects, and let's start with one at first. And let's start basic. So we're gonna create one keyframe here and the other keyframe at 300. And right somewhere in between, we're gonna grab this one, copy and paste, and now we're on the X. I don't think it's the right angle. So if we want to verify what angle it is we want to change first, let's remove all the keyframes. So, oh yeah, this is the one we want to change. I was right. So let's undo that. I'm gonna get the keyframes back. And there, what I want to do, in fact, I wanted to go from here, I wanted to stay still on 90 degrees, and from here I wanted to go 90 to 180 or 270, because I'm adding 180 to 90. So, and then this one is going to be 180 more than that, and it's gonna keep on rolling this way. So we can just say like add 180 to that. So it's gonna be 1 and 90 here and 0 and 90 here, and it's gonna affect the rotation. So let's look at that. First we'll need to refresh, and let's see. Now it's kind of there, but it's kind of not in motion. So let's look at what's going on. If we open up the offset here, we've got the offset rotations, and it's not checked in. So let's simply check it in, and let's look at that. So right now they're appearing, and after they have scaled in, they kind of do a spin around, and they do a disappear afterwards. And this only gets applied to one of the rows here. Let's try to have it time with their scaling. So I'm gonna hit U on the light here, and we can see all our keyframes here, and we can see that the radius here, it's where it is. So we can take this keyframe and bring it here, and take this one and bring this like that. So if I refresh now, they're kind of gonna rotate. And is that exactly what we, I mean, oh no, it's not exactly what we want it to be. So we want it to start at 90. The second frame is got to be this one, 270, and there is gonna stay still. So 270 this one can keep at 270, and here this one is at 270, and it's gonna go to that one. So make sure that it's set up correctly, and if we look at what we get now, they'll rotate in and they'll stay there, and then they'll rotate as they scale out. And if we want them to keep on rotating a little bit longer than they are scaling in, that's where we can just go offset those, and then of course we can make some curves in there because it would look better if it's smooth. So let's ease that in, and let's bring this so it's more kind of accelerated at first, and then the motion smooths out. So there we've added some interesting motion in there, and let's grab this keyframe and keyframe assistant easy ease out, and let's pull this, and let's make this one, and let's bring this like that. Control Alt front slash to refresh, and now we're gonna have more of a, and now it seems that we're it's because we've got no offset at all. So we can bring this in, and we keep everything proportionally lined up by in the end changing just 2 keyframes, only these one. It manages everything else, the color, the rotation, whatever we want to put in there. So let's add back some offset in there. So right here, the repeat number 2, let's set it to 12, and let's look at our nice transition. Pretty cool. We might want to add in more shadows, so right here, let's set it off. So that's what we get with the default ambient occlusion. So already, like, this is completely flat. Here it's got a little bit more of shadows in there, but maybe you want to increase those shadows, have them stand out a little bit more, and maybe now they're too thick, so we can just increase some of those. I mean, increase the radius and refine that as we see fit, depending on how much shadow we want there to be in between our pieces. That's going to be some way of managing even more details to it. That's cool. Pretty shiny. And remember, we've got our lights with the where is it? This is where our light comes from. Here we can simply rotate the environment, but if we like, right now it seems that the light seems to be coming from this, so we can put more emphasis here. So let's hit Control Alt Shift L, and we're gonna add a point light, and this one, let's call it Tau Lumi. And depending on what kind of, maybe can add some blue light somewhere in there. So let's get in the material and lighting, make sure it's active, and there we've got one more way to add in some light. So maybe we want to just to have this part here taken more of the light. It seems a little bit more to it, like this, where we've got some light direction, and we can make it like really bright, and if it spills too far we can either reduce the radius, but this will reduce like the bright glow part. But if we really don't want it, we want it that bright, but we don't want to affect it all the way up to there, we can come back in here, and in the light settings, I've got everything opened up. So right in the light material, here we've got something that's off by default, the light fall off. If we turn it on, let's set it to smooth, this now will be, so let's reduce this down now. We can like even have even more control on the way that it's spilling from one side of the screen to the other. So that pretty much, we can make another light and make it another color. Let's make it a warmer color. So what did I do there? I changed the color of the previous light, so this is the one I want to change. Let's make this one like a darker light. So this side, I don't know if this makes any real sense, but this is adding more light details, overall light details to that. Not that it's gonna help to make it tile if that's something you want it to tile, but that's not what we're looking for right now. And lastly, we can just maybe add some Control Alt Y, an adjustment layer on top of that, and let's bring in a level. So we have a nice curve here. Let's get into reds, and we can maybe bring this in and tweak that a little bit depending on how much the blue shade that we want to actually affect our thing there. And this, depending on your taste, it's just one more way to treat the rich colors that we have set up on top of everything. So that's what we started with. Post color correct, I like this one better. And on top of the levels, now let's add the curves, in which we're gonna simply boost the contrast. Oh really? So alright, I think we got we got all the meat out of this lesson. I didn't save for a while, so I'm gonna stop it right here, and it's been great. So as always, see you next time.